They said it was just a routine patrol, just another night where nothing would matter. But when officers found a black woman walking alone near the edge of a quiet park, something inside them shifted. Their smirks told the story before their hands moved. The zip ties, the rope, the mocking laughter. Bound against a tree, she stood humiliated, stripped of dignity in the most public way. What they didn't know was who she truly was, or how their cruelty would ignite a storm far greater than they could imagine. Watch until the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Her name was Evelyn Carter, known in the community for her warmth, her patience, and her fierce dedication to fairness. By day, she worked quietly behind the scenes, advocating for justice in courtrooms and policy chambers. By night, she remained deeply human, caring for her family, supporting her neighbors, and walking the park trails to clear her mind. To those who knew her, Evelyn was more than just a lawyer. She was a pillar of resilience. Yet in that moment, under dim streetlights and shadows stretching across the park, the officers did not see her humanity. They saw only their target, their entertainment, someone they believed powerless. What they couldn't see was that the woman they mocked would soon become the voice that exposed them. This night, which began so ordinary, would alter the trajectory of justice in ways no one could predict. It started with a command, sharp and dismissive, as though she were an object instead of a person. Evelyn froze, her instincts telling her to remain calm. However, calmness did not shield her from the laughter that followed, as one officer bragged about teaching her a lesson. They pushed her toward the tree, the rough bark scraping against her back as her wrists were bound. Their taunts cut deeper than the restraints. They accused her of trespassing, of looking suspicious, of knowing her place. None of it was true, but truth did not weigh prejudice. Passers-by slowed, some pulling out phones, unsure if what they were seeing was real. A woman bound to a tree, officers joking as though it were a spectacle. Evelyn's heart pounded, not just with fear, but with fury. She had dedicated her life to dismantling the very system now humiliating her. Each second became heavier, each laugh a reminder of how fragile safety could be when skin color dictated suspicion. But the officers' arrogance was their mistake. They didn't notice the silent witnesses recording. They didn't know the world was already watching. And they certainly didn't recognize that the woman they were degrading wasn't just anyone. She was the chair of the state's Justice Reform Council. What began as cruelty in the dark was already spiraling into exposure. The night was no longer theirs to control. The ropes tightened and the laughter grew louder. Evelyn lifted her chin, her silence more potent than their noise. Phones flashed, live streams spread, and within minutes, the scene reached thousands. People gasped at the sight of officers turning a human being into a mockery, their cruelty broadcast without filter. The shift was instant. Their grins faltered as calls poured into precincts, leaders demanding answers. The crowd gathering at the park began to chant her name, recognizing her, rallying behind her. And in that charged moment, as the officers tried to cover their tracks, Evelyn stood as tall as the tree itself, humiliated but unbroken, bound but not silenced. The humiliation they thought would crush her had instead ignited a movement they could no longer contain. By morning, the story had gone national. Headlines screamed, officials scrambled, and the officers who once laughed now faced suspension, investigation, and public outrage. Evelyn spoke not with vengeance, but with clarity, turning her personal pain into collective power. She demanded systemic change, accountability, and an end to the culture of humiliation that so often shadowed justice. Her words echoed beyond the park, beyond the city, touching millions who had known the same fear, the same degradation. She had been bound to a tree, but it was the system that stood exposed, rooted in prejudice, trembling under the weight of truth. The question lingered long after the headlines faded. How many more stories like this will it take before equality is more than a promise? Tell me, where are you watching from? Take care.